everybody, and welcome to the Kelly Green Hour as we are getting you set for Week 5 in the National Football League as the 4-0 Philadelphia Eagles are set to do battle with the 2-2 Denver Broncos. I'm your host, LG Harrell, and as always, I am joined by my co-host, Connor Dono. Connor, we're already on Week 5, finished the first month of the season, and, kind of the way things go now, the first 4 games are quasi preseason and the Eagles are undefeated. Not everything is perfect, but they're winning games, and hopefully they can start getting some consistency offensively to meet where the defense and special teams are playing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Despite them being 2-2, this is a tough Denver Broncos matchup. They match up well against an area that hasn't been the Eagles' greatest strength so far this season. So it's going to be really interesting to see how they try to match up. I think this matchup is really going to end up being about offensive line versus defensive line on both sides of the ball. Our defensive line has not been able to generate we've been able to generate pressure, but not turn it into sacks or any, really game change. Like, we got some batted balls and stuff, but we haven't turned it into any game changing statistical categories beyond batting some balls down. Whereas on the flip side of it, the Denver Broncos are extremely strong at getting pressure and getting after the quarterback and turning that into actual stats. So and then when you look at it on that side of it, the Denver Broncos are one of the best offensive lines in the league. The Philadelphia Eagles are one of the best offensive lines in the league, but statistically right now are giving up a lot more pressures than we generally do. So things are not looking like they usually do for the Eagles, but I know we're going to dive into all of this. But we got out of what I consider to be the most difficult stretch of this season. I know that I think we play the Commanders and the Bills coming up in a stretch of 3 games right towards the end of the season, but the Commanders are starting to semi look like, what people thought they would eventually be when you just throw a bunch of 30-plus-year-olds on a football team together and hope that it turns into something. But, they have been without Jane Daniels for a week and a half as well. So we'll see how that goes. But I think that me and you, we talked about last week, both had us coming out 2-2. We had this being the most difficult stretch of the season for us, and we came out 4-0 in what would, like you said, it's kind of like a preseason.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to touch on all of that. Before we do, as always, follow us on Twitter at Kelly Green Hour. Follow Connor on Twitter at Connor10. Follow me on Twitter at LJHerrell54, and follow the Eagles Pinpull Network on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook, and wherever you get your podcast at Eagles Pinpull Network. And if you're joining us live like Dibbin is, what's going on, Dibbins? Go Birds. And he bet on the Eagles to repeat. Yes, I do agree with you. They better repeat. Let us know your thoughts on the game, your prediction, player of the game, keys to the game, any questions you may have that you want Connor and I to discuss. The way our preview show works, we kind of go over the offense and defense for both the Eagles and their opponents, and then we will do our keys to the game, players to watch, our unheralded player of the week for the previous week in the NFL, and then give our prediction. We have a Broncos fan. Hey, let's jump right into it. The Walrus Bronco fan here. If you have any questions about the team, I'll do my best to answer. It's going to be a great game. I don't know how it will play out, but looking forward to it. If the Eagles play a complete game, it will be a long day for the Broncos. See, that's the thing. It's a bunch of ifs. If the Eagles play a great game, it would be, but the Eagles haven't. And for one reason or another, the passing game hasn't been able to get going. The running game hasn't been able to get going. It's been inconsistency. They've been 2 quarters, the second half of the Rams game, or 2 halves, the second half of the Rams game and the first half of the previous game against why am I blanking? Who did we just beat? Tampa. Against Tampa, where we looked decent offensively. But beyond that, nothing. So the Eagles have to figure that out, and I'm hoping that all the talk this week, whether it should have been there or not, and I think it was overblown, hopefully it got teammates, coaches, whatever it is in a room, and they can find a way to discuss it. A.J. Brown is one of the best weapons in football, and I do not blame him one bit for wanting the ball. He wants to help the offense be productive. They're doing things hard right now. You have to go on long sustained drives or get a turnover from the defense or special teams to be able to score quickly. And long sustained drives over and over and over again will more than likely lead to turnovers. Now, the Eagles only have one turnover offensively, and that was a fumble against the Rams when Jared Verse beat Matt Pryor in the third quarter, early in the third quarter, forcing a fumble. So the Eagles have been doing a great job of not turning the football over, but that can only last for so long. Like, let's be honest. And obviously Jalen is doing a good job of, I don't want to say he's being risk averse, but he's doing a good job of protecting the football and not putting it in harm's way. But obviously the receivers, A.J. Brown is more boisterous about it. Do you think Devontae Smith isn't happy? He's probably not happy, but he's not open about it. Also, he played at Alabama. He's used to all the talent. Alabama under Nick Saban he played with Jalen Waddle, Jerry Jeudy, Henry Rugg. He played with a bunch of receivers that and then the running backs, obviously Derrick Henry. I don't know if Derrick Henry was there, but they had a bunch of running backs also. So like everybody had to get a piece of the pie. And this was before, the NIL and the transfer portal was a huge thing. So it was very rare that people transferred at the time. So he's used to it. So he may better be equipped to it. But still, you can say, like, he even admitted it, that, like, look, AJ talked because he wants the offense to be better, and it needs to be better. And there's no lie there. People are just mad because AJ voiced his frustration. I would be like, I don't know, like, wouldn't you be upset if you had a receiver that didn't want the ball, that didn't want to help the team? Like, just because he is out there saying it and putting it on social media doesn't mean he's wrong in what he is saying.
No, I agree. And I mean, I think that this all stems back to more the fact that the Philadelphia Eagles are presently the punching bag of the national media everywhere. They were throughout all of last season. They were when they were when everyone was picking against them in the Super Bowl, and they continue to be this year. This stems back as far as that stretch of games under Brian Johnson as our offensive coordinator. The media has realized that there is a spot that maximizes your views and your clicks, and it is the Philadelphia Eagles fan base. And that is why they continue to go at it and hammer at it over and over again. You don't think that there isn't some players in other organizations that aren't unhappy and aren't voicing it in some way, shape, or form? I promise you there is. It's just they're not in the national media scope, because why would they be? You're not unfortunately, I'm sorry, if you're the LA Rams, if Devontae Adams is upset that he's not getting looks because Puka Nacua is getting all the looks, you're not going to get the attention on the national media scale because no one cares about the LA Rams. So you know that you have tapped into somewheres where you can get clicks, you can get attention, and you can get what you want. And I mean, you see, like Devontae Smith kind of said today, that A.J. Brown's a great leader. I have zero doubts that A.J. Brown is a great leader. I know that A.J. Brown is a great leader, and that's what makes it. We had so many people leave this team this past offseason, or the past two off seasons, if you combine the two of them, where they were very boisterous. They just weren't boisterous in what some would consider to be a negative manner. And AJ Brown, sometimes you could consider what he is doing in a negative light, but is it a negative light? The offense is struggling. Is it a bad thing to necessarily bring it to light like he's bringing it to light? I know that some people are like, let's keep it in-house. Let's talk about it together. I mean, we're 4 weeks in and almost nothing has changed beyond we can play a half of football 2 out of 4 weeks of the season. That's all that has happened so far. So to sit there and believe that it's, oh, let's keep it inside, let's just talk about it together, we're going to figure things out. We've seen this before with the Philadelphia Eagles. It doesn't work out that way. You can keep it inside all you want. It doesn't work out unless you bring it to light. And I mean, we say winning cures all things, and it seems to have for the most part. But of course, AJ Brown also wants to get his looks, which is good. I mean, the guy's getting paid a boatload of money, and he's being very outspoken in regards to, you're paying me, but Whereas some people might be happy to be paid to go out there and do nothing. I want to be paid to go out there and do something. I want to help this struggling offense get to the next level.
Yeah, and I mean, last year they were 29th, I believe, in the NFL in passing. This year they're 30th or 31st. I mean, they're scoring. I think they're 7th in scoring, so like they're still putting points on the board. Obviously, the special teams has scored the last 2 weeks, so that special teams isn't going to score every week. So offense is definitely going to have to step up. The offense is going to have to step up and find a way to be consistent, as I mentioned before, consistent offensively. We got to find a way to get Saquon Barkley going. He hasn't had the same start that he had last year when he was busting off wrong runs. He's averaging like 60, 70 yards a game right now. If that, and I think a lot of that, while we can blame Kevin Patullo, we can blame Jalen Hurts, the offensive line does deserve some blame too. Like, they have not played well. The interior of the offensive line definitely hasn't played well. Obviously, Landon Dickerson is beat up. Cam Jurgens hasn't had the season that we anticipated him having, but he also had that back surgery over the off season, which was shortened because they went to the Super Bowl. Tyler Steen replacing Mekhi Becton. Tyler Steen is not the road grader that Becton is in the run game. He may be probably better than Becton is in the pass game, but still, like, it's a difference there. Lane Johnson has come out the last 2 games. He's good to go this week. We'll see. And then Jordan Mailata has been the most consistent offensive lineman. And like we always talk about how the Eagles come in with the best offensive line usually on a weekly basis, but this week this year it hasn't been that way. They haven't been playing up to par. And we always applaud Jeff Stoutland and Stoutland University, but if right now they would all be failing. They're not passing Stoutland University right now, so they definitely have to pick up their game. And if the offensive line gets better, Saquon Barkley gets better. And I hate hearing week in and week out, like Jordan Mailata says, one block and he gets sprung. Well, make that block then. So it can't just be every week one block. We missed the block here or we missed the block there. Make the block. Like hold your block. Do whatever you need to do to allow Saquon to get going. It might be last year the running game helped the passing game. This year it might be that the passing game has to help the running game. They have to figure it out on the offense. There's too much talent. A $50+ million quarterback in Jalen Hurts, $30+ million wide receiver in AJ Brown, a $25 million wide receiver in Devontae Smith, $20+ million running back in Saquon Barkley. Dallas Goedert's making $10 million, and he has might actually be the best weapon we have right now. He just can't stay on the field. Now, he played the entire game last week, missed 1 or 2 practices this week. He's good to go, so it's going to be good that we have him. It's just a matter of, can he actually stay on the field?
Yeah, and I think that Dallas Goedert's going to run at stress level all season, because I think that the Eagles are probably going to start to manage his pain and manage his injuries, and we may see a lot more DMPs and LPs for Dallas Goedert than we've seen, in hopes of making sure that he's able to play. Before I get into my point, shout out to Ryan Swope. Hi guys, welcome aboard. And our guy, Little G Griffith, I think he just copies and pastes the same comment every time. I'm a big fan of the Eagles.
That's fine.
Better Eagles kick Denver Broncos, but welcome as always. I'm all jokes, but I mean, just like you said, I think one of the biggest issues with this offense that looks so different, obviously Kevin Patullo is a different offensive coordinator. So again, we're going into a different offense. Again, we don't know, what he's saying behind the scenes, what he's trying to do, what he's trying to implement. But one of the biggest things that has been a weakness that we're not used to being a weakness is the offensive line. And I brought it up on the review show for anyone who tuned in on Tuesday. Landon Dickerson, when you look at the highlights of that game, or if you rewatch that Broncos game, he's not moving right. There is something that is absolutely 100% not right with Landon Dickerson. And I kind of I alluded to it on the Tuesday episode. I kind of wish they gave him more time. There was almost like this feeling of need that he had to be back for week 1 or week 2. He had to rush his way back, and I really don't think that there was a need to rush back the way that he rushed back. And you can see it in the way that he's playing that things aren't right. And Cam Jurgens, I mean, the back injury is a back injury, and I don't think like you can give him give him the extra month, give him an extra couple weeks. I don't know if that was going to make the difference. I just think that there's something going on there, injury wise and play wise, between those two. Tyler Steen definitely has been much less of the problem than them, but like you said, I mean, Tyler Steen is what, 6'5", upwards of the high 200s, whereas Mekhi Becton was 6'8" and over 300 pounds. He was an absolute mauler. He was an animal. He was made to be moved into the interior of the offensive line, and it worked. And Jeff Stoutland got him paid, moving him into that position. Tyler Steen is just such a different player than Mekhi Becton was, and we just have to accept that and realize that. Whereas I feel like we expect more out of Jurgens and we expect more out of Landon Dickerson.
Steen is 6'6", 321 for what it's worth.
Okay,
Becton is still.
He definitely does not.
Becton is still bigger. He doesn't look it.
No. Mekhi Becton in that slot looked way bigger than Tyler Steen looks in that right guard position. And then of course, to your point on
Mekhi Becton 6'7", 364.
He looked way bigger. He looks way bigger in a guard spot. I'm just saying. But then back to your point about Saquon Barkley. So Eagles Eric shared a post from somebody, and he's like, I figured out how to fix the offense. And it was EPAs per attempt based on what gap they went to. And I think it was a negative EPA when you went between the two gaps that had Cam Jurgens and Dickerson on one side, and Jurgens and Steen, I think, was a plus, but very, very minor plus. And then when they went to the outsides and they followed Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata, the EPA per attempt was plus way more than anything else. So I think that kind of speaks to the issues that this offensive line is having and getting outside and making those plays outside, maybe.
I will say one thing. You don't need stats to realize that they're not having success running up the middle.
No.
You do not need stats. By watching the game, you can tell they cannot run up the middle. And they're running in the stack boxes a lot. Teams are loading up the box, and because the Eagles are so predictable in formations and what they're going to do on certain downs, they run right into it anyway. There's no checks out of it. That has to change. I don't know if it's because Patullo and Sirianni aren't giving Jalen the ability to check out of those, or if Jalen's just not doing it. I don't know what it is, but when you come up in the play call, he should be given, I feel like every play he should be given 2 plays. A check, give me a check with me. If we call it a running play and we get up to the line of scrimmage and you see that there's 8 guys in the box, check with me, we're going to a pass. It's not that hard. So I'm hoping that they make that change. It could be a little subtle change, but it could work. It could help both the running and passing game. The Walrus actually brings up a point that I wanted to, because I wanted to jump to the Denver defense. Who do you think PS2 will be guarding this weekend? Maybe Brown will get some attempts if he's not guarding him. And we're talking about Patrick Surtain, who's the best corner in football, who won Defensive Player of the Year last year. Being an Alabama fan, I'm a huge Patrick Surtain fan. When we drafted Devontae Smith, I wanted Patrick Surtain, but he got drafted before we took Smith. So I'm not mad that we took Smith, obviously, but I was really into hopefully getting Patrick Surtain that year. Honestly, the way things have been going with A.J. Brown and the Eagles passing, if you want to get into A.J. Brown's head, put Patrick Surtain on him. Because now, I know it was their rookie year, but there's that highlight going around when the Eagles played Denver in Denver, and Devontae Smith lost Patrick Surtain. Jalen Hurts gave him the ball, gave him a go ball on the sideline into the end zone, and Devontae Smith out-jumped him, got the touchdown. Obviously, they were both rookies then. Surtain and Smith, both have gotten so much better since then. And Surtain is he's a stud. Like, if he's not the best corner in football, he's the second best corner in football. And I think he's the best corner in football. And the Eagles might happen to have one of the other best corners in football playing on their side. So you got a night now, while they're not facing each other, it's going to be a nice battle just seeing 2 of the best at their position go up against some pretty good receivers. But if I'm Denver, I might put Patrick Surtain on AJ Brown and say, take him out the game and let's see how frustrated you can make him. Do you make him frustrated? Do you and if you make him frustrated, will he get out of line? Will he be out of character? Will he do something that the refs throw a flag or something like that and get a penalty? Or and if that were to happen and he goes out there, has one catch for 5 yards, and the Eagles lose, well, I can only imagine what next week will be like in the world of AJ Brown.
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, I agree with you. I think it's got to be AJ Brown. You know that if you don't put Patrick Surtain on AJ Brown, that AJ Brown's probably going to make you pay. Jalen Hurts is probably going to make you pay. But I mean, yeah, you have to continue to respect what AJ Brown can do and what AJ Brown is capable of. He can just as easily turn this season around with a 150 plus yard, 1 touchdown, 2 touchdown game as it is a almost lost season for him at this point through 4 weeks. So I think you have to respect him and you have to continue to play to the fact that he's upset, he's frustrated, and you might be able to even get a penalty or two out of him based on the frustration that he shows and he expresses. Because one thing that we're seeing with this Philadelphia Eagles team as a whole is that they are struggling from a discipline perspective. And if times continue to get tough for certain guys like AJ Brown, he may just take his frustration out. It's not like him, but it could be something that we may potentially see.
I will say one thing though. It could be a calculated thing by AJ Brown. If you remember 3 years ago, AJ didn't get many targets against, I think it was the Vikings. And then he went on that stretch, 6-game stretch where he had 125 yards receiving, which I think it set an NFL record. Last year, before the Pittsburgh, it was after the Panthers game, before the Pittsburgh game, he was asked what's wrong. He said, what's wrong with the offense? He said passing. And then we had the Jalen. So that's what you guys want to see. Maybe, just maybe, this is just a calculated thing by AJ Brown.
Absolutely.
Because
I could see it too, though.
Because it gets not only the fans talking, media, whatever. It gets the team talking. It gets the offense talking. It might get them into a room together. It might get the offensive coordinator talking to be like, all right, I get it. I see it. What can we do to fix it? And maybe this week we see the Eagles throw the ball all over the yard. Now, again, you mentioned it. Denver is a very good defense. They have their front four is not a joke. Their front four will get after you. So it won't be easy, but maybe, just maybe, AJ Brown's just like, I'm just gonna say something. I'm gonna put it out there, and that'll open up dialogue between him and whoever, him and Jalen, him and Patula, Jalen and Patula, whatever it is, whoever needs to talk. Maybe it's just a calculated thing by AJ Brown.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, because some teams like to keep it inside. Some people like the Miami Dolphins like to go and have a player meeting and get to 1-3. They still are like a shell of themselves and clearly have their own issues. But exactly, you put that out there, you get Jalen talking to Kevin saying, I don't want this perspective out there with the media. You get Kevin Patula looking in, hopefully looking in at himself and saying, okay, something's not working, I gotta fix it, which is definitely clear. We've said it week in and week out, and we will continue to say it this week. Even though they've had 2 good halves over the last 2 games, we will continue to say that the offense needs to look good for a full 4 quarters. And I'm actually going to bring Ryan's point into this, because it's a good point. Eagles, outside of the 2 Super Bowls, are in one half of games always only show fun, explosive football in pressure situations when down by a lot, forced to make a comeback, or we'll do it for 1 quarter like this past week and turn from it and get to conservative and not stick to it. It's very strange. It shouldn't be this difficult with the talent they have. I couldn't agree more, Ryan. You have the team, you have the offense to apply pressure for 4 full quarters. And we continue to see it time in and time again, that it's just seems to be 2 quarters at the most that they really want to play genuine football, except when it's the Super Bowl. And then, of course, they're going to go out there and they're going to put their damnedest effort in to put as much forward. And they did put as much forward in the Super Bowl. But I mean, with all that you have invested in this offense, with as much talent as is in this offense, we shouldn't be looking like this offense. Like you said earlier, Saquon Barkley's at about 60 yards. You're right. He's at 59.4 yards per game. Saquon Barkley should not be. That is what Saquon Barkley looked like in New York. That is what he wanted to get out of in New York. And he is returning to that after having a 2,000-yard season, the most rushing yards in NFL history for an entire season, all the way to the Super Bowl. You cannot tell me that you can't get a guy like that going. You cannot tell me that you can't get an AJ Brown going, who has numerous Pro Bowl seasons, over 1,200 yard seasons. He is such an asset. Devontae Smith, if something isn't working, there has to be something that will work. There is no way you can tell me with even Dallas Goedert and his banged up self, you cannot tell me that you cannot find a way to make something work. And last week was a perfect example. They found a way to get Dallas Goedert constantly involved and making plays, and he got 2 touchdowns, and he ended up with like 50 yards or whatever. It wasn't a huge game, but it was an important game. It was important points to put up on the board. But that just goes to show there has to be, but that was in one half where they were actually good on offense. But that just goes to show you have to find a way to make some sort of one of these weapons work. Forcing Saquon Barkley down teams' throats may not necessarily be the answer. But a guy like Devontae Smith, who has stayed quiet, could be the answer. AJ Brown, we know AJ Brown can be an answer, but he just hasn't been. And I'm never going to give back wins. I mean, we've won, 20 games in a row now? There's no way I'm giving back wins. But I would agree with Ryan that a large number of these wins have been a lot harder on our hearts than they should be, with the weapons that we have and with the team that we have. And you can't just lean into this defense over and over. And we're going to get into it. We've been leaning into this defense all season. We're out of the preseason, the quasi preseason, whatever you want to call it. It's time that this offense steps up so that we can become the complete team that people continue to think about and continue to fear.
Yeah, definitely. Just again, the word consistency keeps coming to mind. Got to find a way to get everybody involved. Ryan also asked, guys, is it too much for Hurts to get 220 yards per game? If he never gets 250 to 300, who cares? Not asking for that. No need to get 250 to 300. But 220 yards, yes. Even with a great running game, Hurts should be able to get 220 per game in 15 out of 18 games, no more than throwing 25 throws per game. Shouldn't be this hard. It shouldn't. The one thing I do say, the one thing I'll say about.
Where's that boy that was in here last year that was always calling for the backup quarterback to come in because he wanted to see more throwing from Jalen Hurts? I can't remember his name for the life of me. But he always
I know Tech Quinton always calls for Tanner McKay.
That's who I'm thinking of. He always wants more out of the passing game, but wins are wins, right?
And I'll say this: I've never seen a quarterback that didn't give a crap about his stats more than Jalen Hurts. All he wants is to win. They've won. The last loss with him starting and finishing was the Tampa game last year. They're 20-1 in their last 21 games, and the loss being the Washington game, which he only played 12 plays. So, he doesn't care. I mean, he may not care. Obviously, others care. We saw AJ Brown's post after the Super Bowl. He gets joy from making his opponent fear him. He wants to beat down his opponent metaphorically, and that's how he likes to grind. He likes to build up to the championship. Did he enjoy winning the Super Bowl? Obviously, he loved the ring, the parade, and all that. But he just wants to contribute, and I will never be mad at a guy who wants to help his team win. I'll never be mad at him. Could he go about it a different way? Maybe, but if he wants to help the team win and he's going to speak about it, good. I don't care. That's why I understood where he was coming from. That's why I didn't take what he said and blow it out of proportion like the local media did. It gave them something to talk about for a week. Just I don't know, whatever happens. And then I want to go back to looking at this Denver defense before we jump over to our defense.
Of course.
Zach Allen, very good. Alex Singleton, former Eagle, has really made a name for himself in Denver's defense. Nick Bonito, very good. We've already talked about Patrick Surtain. Riley Moss, who actually played with, I'm pretty sure he played with Cooper DeJean at Iowa. He's another of the lighter complexion cornerbacks, as I'll say. And we'll see if he's lined up against Devontae Smith, and we'll see what happens. It'll be up to this Eagles offensive line. If the Eagles decide to throw the ball and test Moss and Surtain, to give him time and not let him get hit and not allow him to not throw the ball down the field.
Yeah, I mean, when I was looking at the stats prior to this, the Denver Broncos rank number 1 in quarterback knockdown percentage, sacks, pressures, pressure percentage, and they rank in the top 5 if you throw in hurry and hurry percentage. They rank in the top 5 in those categories as well. They rank it. I think they're outside the top 10 in blitz percentage. So, or right on the fringes of the top 10. So they don't even blitz to the same degree as say, Todd Bowles and the Bucks of last week, but they continue to find a way to get pressure, and they are a very good defense. They're very sure. That's why I think at the end of the day, it's going to come down to, as much as we may talk about Pat Surtain and others and Kenyon Mitchell and others who we're going to hit on our side of the defense, that it's going to come down, I genuinely believe, to a battle of the defensive lines and the offensive lines, because the Broncos offensive line is one of the best in the league. The Eagles defensive line has found a way to apply pressure, but not turn it into any actual feasible statistics. And then you look on the flip side, it's the complete opposite, because the Denver Broncos have been able to create a lot of pressure, turn it into sacks, turn it into problems. They're 2-2. They probably could be a 4-0 football team, but they're 2-2 right now. But their defense, they're leaning into a lot on their defense as well, because Bo Nix we're going to get into it, as much as Bo Nix is a decent quarterback. I don't know. I mean, I would never put him in the top 10, top 12 of quarterbacks. And I think that there's more juice to squeeze from Bo Nix or from the quarterback position for the Denver Broncos. And then you look on for the Eagles offensive line, like we hit on earlier, they just haven't been that good this year. And especially on the interior, the Denver Broncos have a total of 15 sacks on the season. They're tied with the Rams for the most, and it is spread everywhere along that team. They got Zach Allen for 1, Benito for 4.5, Cooper for 2.5, Franklin Myers for 2. You got Justin Strand, I think is how they pronounce it, for 2. Like they have production coming from everywhere for this defense. So you never know where that might necessarily come from. But this is a defense that you definitely have to respect. And I think that I'm probably kind of alluding to a preview of my keys to the game, but I think it's going to come down to offensive, defensive lines on both sides of the ball for this. The Eagles have to start to turn pressure into actual sacks and into, fumbles and into situations that generate even further opportunity for this defense than we've already seen. Because basically in a secondary aspect, the secondary has been, and the special teams have been making the majority of the plays. It's time for this interior defensive line, which has been so good, to turn some of this pressure into sacks. And I mean, we have to start seeing the edges do something. I mean, is it not time to give Azeez Ojulari his opportunity? I know I'm alluding to leading into the defense, but I mean, it can't be any worse than what we're seeing right now, can it?
Before we get into that, I think Azeez is going to play this week. He kind of has no choice. Ryan says the constant 5 to 10 yard throws is why Hurts only gets 120 to 180 or less per game. Stop the constant 5 to 10 yard throws. Need at least 5 per half, 25 to 30 yards in the air before it touches the receiver's hands. And I think that comes to, there's no reason why A.J. Brown's route tree consists of 3 routes. I think that's on the offensive coordinator. There are a lot of plays. I don't know if everybody remembers what DK Metcalf did on the one slant that he got from Aaron Rodgers and took 80 yards. That's what A.J. Brown should be doing. You don't need to throw the ball 25 and 30 yards down the field to get yak, because A.J. Brown is one of the toughest receivers to bring down in open space. If you can get him, and the one thing, Eagles have been going up against zone a lot this year, and that doesn't allow for much open space. Denver likes to play man-to-man. So if they're going to do Riley Moss on Devontae Smith and then Patrick Surtain man-to-man on A.J. Brown, one of those guys should be able to win that matchup and maybe, get some yak yards and we can open up the passing game. So I do want to see shots down the field, but it doesn't necessarily have to be, you don't have to do that a lot. You can get yak yards, and that'll help the receivers' yards and the quarterback's yards, obviously. So I do agree to the respect that all these short passes, like the Tampa corners were sitting on like that one drive where the Eagles where Jalen threw it to in the second half, where Jalen threw it to A.J. Brown 3 times in a row. They sat on every route because they knew A.J. wasn't going to do anything else. I think that's a play a play call, or that's a route, that's a play design flaw more than anything.
It felt to me in that position, it felt like Todd Bowles knew the A.J. Brown frustration and baited Kevin Petula into saying, give me something that puts A.J. Brown in a spot where we can stop him. And they did it 3 straight times. They fell for what Todd Bowles was doing. And and that's my biggest issue with this offense, teams are starting to see through that stuff. Teams can clearly see that we can be baited. We have our giveaways on the offense of what's a run, what's a pass. And that is so frustrating and so infuriating that Kevin Petula can continue to come to the microphone with the media each week and say some of the stuff that he says. It's like, no, you have your tells. Really good defensive coordinators can feast on you, and we've seen that. We're just lucky it hasn't turned into losses on the flip side. And then of course,
who knows if before we get to the Walrus, if we would have lost the game earlier in the year, how different things could be in terms of the way, like we could have gotten
for sure
an A.J. Brown blow up much sooner.
Imagine if we lost to the Dallas Cowboys. Imagine what would have happened. The Walrus says, I believe if the Broncos can stop the run game, they can put enough pressure on Hurts to make a mistake. 100%.
There's one thing about Jalen is very good with the football. Like now, like he has been very much better with the football. He doesn't turn it over as much as he did, early part of last year and even into the latter parts of 2023. And that might just be ingrained in his head from the coaching staff, and maybe that's why he is shy to pull the trigger sometimes. But maybe he will open it up more. We know that they have it in them. They've done it before, and we know that they can do it again.
Look at the Jahan Dotson catch against the Dallas Cowboys. It's there. It's in this offense to make a big play happen here and there. We're not asking for it to happen like, maybe Justin Herbert and Dak Prescott, where it happens on almost 50% of their throws where they have to go for 15, 20 plus yards through the air. We're not asking for that. We're just asking to back the defense up a bit, put them on their heels and not make them think that they can just completely stack the box on us, because all we are is a one-dimensional Jalen Hurts or Saquon Barkley running, two-dimensional Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts rushing offense. That's not what we are, and we know that we can be more than capable of doing a lot more things. But that was a lot of offense to the defense.
Yeah, and Ryan, we can start with Ryan's. I'm super excited to watch the duo of Campbell and Bond for 4 to 5 years. They can really cover. It's so much fun to watch. This has been missing for a long time at the linebacker position for the Eagles, and that doesn't even include Nakobe Dean, who started practice this week, and he's not going to be activated this week, but something tells me he could potentially be activated for next week. We know that obviously Campbell, first-round pick this year, under contract for 5 years. Bond got a 3-year deal, if I'm not mistaken. It's 3 or 4, whatever it is.
3. 3. Yeah.
So, but still, they are kind of a carbon copy of each other. You can do what you can do with Bond, you can do with Campbell. What you can do with Campbell, you can do with Bond. That's why I'm interested when Nakobe can play, how this is going to work out, because Nakobe is like that emotional leader of the defense. He had the green dot last year before he got hurt, and he's like a coach out on the field, and he's been on the sidelines every week coaching up Campbell, helping out Bond and whatnot on the defense. So, if they continue to struggle on the edge, and getting after the quarterback, if Uche can't get there, when Nolan Smith comes back, he can't get there. Jalix Hunt continues to struggle. Azeez Ojulari, if he gets on the field, he can't get there. Zadarius Smith. Maybe they move Jihad Campbell or Bond, which I don't think they would, but I'm just saying because they're both really good linebackers, obviously, in covering and in space. Like, I know Campbell gave up the long touchdown, but that wasn't his fault. Nobody got the Baker. Like, I don't know how you expect a linebacker to run with Bucky Irving for as long as he did, and he almost tipped it. And if he would have, it would have been an outstanding play. But like I'm really intrigued. Maybe, if they wanted to get all three linebackers on the field, maybe the Eagles go to like a 3-3-5 or something like that, and then you can blitz Bond and or Campbell and whatnot. Find a way. Again, I'm put your best 11 on the field. If Nakobe Dean is one of your best 11, you can find a way to get him on the field with Bond and Campbell.
100%. I couldn't agree more. You want your best 11 players on the field, no matter how you have to do it, you're going to make it happen. And we've seen with Vic Fangio, he values athleticism. He values guys who can make plays. Cooper DeJean, Jihad Campbell. We didn't expect Jihad Campbell to be playing 90% of snaps to start his career, especially with the injury red flags that pushed him down draft boards. But at the end of the day, he's there and he's doing it because he's such a good player. He's such an asset. And at the end of the day, you have to look at it like this. The edge rushers for the Philadelphia Eagles have half a sack. Half a sack this
season. And that's Zadarius Smith.
And it's Zadarius Smith. It is the person that you went and you picked up off of free agency that has the only bit of, I'm not saying they don't have pressure, because they definitely do have some pressure, although the majority of the pressure continues to come from the interior of that defensive line. It's just, we probably pushed, but I'm not saying we should have brought Josh Sweat back, but we probably pushed too much marbles into the young developing talent that is Nolan Smith, that is Jalix Hunt, and things just haven't panned out so far on the edge portion of this. And I think Zach Bond has 2 sacks, and I want to pull this up. So Zach Bond has a sack, and I'm just looking. So it's just Zach Bond who has a sack on the linebacker side of the football. But Jihad Campbell, I've seen on a multitude of occasions, and same with Zach Bond. They probably could have many more sacks, the two of them combined, than just the one sack that they have. But I agree with you. Like, if it works, like I think I put it up on our X feed earlier this week. Jihad Campbell has played on the defensive line, or has been considered on the defensive line on, I think, 20 or 25% of his snaps so far this season. So to me, that kind of made me feel like Fangio wanted to see what he had in a potential edge rusher or some sort of rusher in Jihad Campbell. And I think he's seeing like Campbell and Bond can wreak a lot of havoc if you bring one of them in some way, shape, or form into that backfield. So it'll be interesting to see what happens this week, especially with Nakobe Dean on his way back. I mean, I do think I would be shocked to watch Howie Roseman put a first-round pick in a linebacker, pay a guy like Zach Bond, and then pay pay Dean the next year. I don't know if I see that in the cards, but let's be bygones. He's been showing us that he is willing to change the ways that he thinks and the ways that he does things. If Vic Fangio clearly isn't leaving for a head coaching job. If Fangio says he's coming back and he says he wants Nakobe Dean's probably on this football team next year.
Yeah, and we'll see what happens when he can get out onto the field. Jumping back to the secondary for the Eagles, Quinyon Mitchell won NFC Defensive Player of the Week. 6 pass breakups. He gave up, I think, 2 catches for 7 yards or something like that. He had a really, really good week last week against Emeka Egbuka and Chris Godwin. This week, if the Eagles decide to have him match up, it would be with Courtland Sutton. Looking at the Broncos skill position players, Courtland Sutton's their best receiver. Troy Franklin is like a slot guy. Marvin Mims is pretty good. Evan Ingram, I thought he was going to have a really good year in this offense with the Denver Broncos, but he's been really inconsistent. I think that Adam Troutman might be moving ahead of him potentially at tight end, but we'll see what Evan Ingram can do this week. But and then obviously, I mean, J.K. Dobbins, kind of a scat back, really good. They like R.J. Harvey a lot, and then Bo Nix, the quarterback. Like you look at the offense, and they don't have like Cortland Sutton's good. J.K. Dobbins used to be good, like really good, and Bo Nix is obviously a first round talent, but I think the Eagles defense, I mean, like if you're looking at it, you mentioned it, it's going to be offensive line versus defensive line. The front four for the Eagles, front five, whatever, is going to have to try to get after Bo Nix. And Bo Nix is like Baker Mayfield in a sense where he can make a lot of plays that are unscheduled, that what I'll call unscheduled plays. You might have this formation, you might have this play called, but if somebody breaks contain and is getting after him, he will run around and he will find a way. And Troy Franklin or Cortland Sutton will break off their routes and he'll throw to him. So he is a lot like Baker Mayfield. So you're going to have to put up with him potentially running. So like Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Moro Jomo, they're going to have in the middle. They're going to have to, not and the defensive ends they're not going to be able to run past Nix. Kind of keep him contained in the pocket and force him to beat you with his arm.
Definitely, I agree. And another thing that I'm watching very, very closely is the CB2 position. Adoree Jackson has been, I think he was a limited participant in the first practice and then a full participant for the rest of the week. Quick shout out before he leaves to the Walrus. Thank you for joining. Good luck this weekend. Good luck with the podcast. I'm out. Go Broncos. Thanks for joining for all this time, the Walrus. We appreciate you. But I mean, the CB2 position is still something that intrigues me because whereas like Keely Ringo didn't get tested as much as I would have wanted to have seen from a coverage perspective, he showed that he had a major weakness in his ability to just make a tackle, make a play in the open space. And that's a concern. Adoree Jackson, on the flip side, he hasn't been as bad from a missed tackle perspective, but he has been pretty hard to watch at times from a coverage perspective. I still think CB2 is a need, but I still like, as much as Marvin Mims and Troy Franklin haven't really put out anything that makes you go, wow. Troy Franklin and Marvin Mims both have speed. They both have certain aspects to their game that maybe could take advantage of some of the weaknesses of the CB2 position. I agree with you. I'm kind of surprised on the Evan Ingram aspect. I'd be shocked if Troutman took over completely, but I mean, Adam Troutman was a Sean Payton guy from back in the New Orleans Saints days. So, I mean, there's a chance that he does take it from Evan Ingram. But I think that Evan Ingram's so much better than what the Denver Broncos have been able to do for him. And hopefully it doesn't happen against Philadelphia. It can happen against somebody else, but hopefully it doesn't happen against Philadelphia. And I don't think it would happen against us. I know that a lot of people pointed to, I think it was a Jahad Campbell play against Bucky Irvin, where he gave up the big touchdown. I thought that's first of all, that's way too long to have a linebacker cover a running back or a tight end in any regard. He was on him for quite a while. He was following him downfield. I think before yards after, that was almost a 20-yard pass. Like, you should never have a linebacker in a situation where they're trailing or chasing after a running back or a tight end for 20 plus yards before they start the yards after the catch approach. So I felt that, like, while some people picked that play apart, I felt that it was more on the front four, front five, whatever was happening at that time, to get pressure on Baker Mayfield and just make a play happen. That was far too long for a linebacker to follow downfield on that. I think that Campbell and Bond are very effective. Their stats may not point to it, but I think they're very effective coverage linebackers, and they're doing a very good job. And I think they're tasked with very difficult roles in certain situations in these games.
Yeah, the one thing I will say is, I think Sean Payton, whoever's the CB2 is for the Eagles, Sean Payton's going to do his best to get them in the compromising positions, just to see, how they react to certain situations. Like you mentioned, it was weird that the Bucs tested Quinyon Mitchell as much as they did. Why would they do that? When you have a Keely Ringo who hasn't really been that good, it hasn't had a chance. I would have tested him, and they didn't. So I will be intrigued to see what he does. And then I'm not going to leave out Cooper DeJean. Obviously, he might be the best tackling cornerback in football. Like, he is all over the field. He's so smart. Like, his football IQ is really, really high. He understands, like, if motions are being made, like last year against Cincinnati on that fourth down play when he was going up against when he was covering Jamar Chase, he knew what was going to happen, and he made the tackle, stuck Chase, and the Eagles took the ball over on downs. Like, he is just such a high IQ football player that, like, put him on Mims, put him on Franklin.
I just can't believe that him and Reed Blankenship have a podcast together, and he has not brought up Reed Blankenship's tackling form. Like, Cooper DeJean is he can legitimately step up and make a big tackle. Reed Blankenship cannot, and I just wish, like, you have a podcast together, the excited whites, like, tell this man how to make a formed tackle, and you may change the opinion of the Kelly Green Hour on Reed Blankenship, especially this extension that we're just waiting on.
That podcast might not last if he doesn't get that extension, which obviously everybody knows how I feel about Reed Blankenship. So hopefully that doesn't happen. Yeah. So, I mean, it's going to be an intrigue. Like, actually, I'm going to save that for my one of my keys or players to watch. But let's move forward to our players to watch and our keys to the game. You want one offensive player and one defensive player from both the Eagles and Broncos, and maybe one or two keys for the offense and the defensive side of the ball. You can go first, Connor.
I mean, on the offensive side of the ball, I mean, I struggle.
Wow, Connor got cut off. Anyway, so I will go with my offensive players and defensive players. I'm going to start on the defensive side of the ball, and I'm actually going coaching. I'm very intrigued by this battle of Sean Payton and Vic Fangio. That is what I think is going to be the key for the Philadelphia Eagles to find a way to slow down the Broncos. If Vic Fangio is able to come up with a game plan to get after Vic Fangio, to get after Bo Nix, then he will be able to maybe force a turnover here and there. The Broncos' 2 losses have been both on the road, and I think they've lost their 2 games. They've lost by a total of 3 or 4 points. Obviously, the field goal against Indianapolis, and then they lost versus the Chargers. And that the jumping over the leverage, or whatever the heck they call it, the jumping over the center and leveraging penalty on that field goal, and he missed it. That was just crazy. Some of the penalties that get called in the NFL these days, that's a different story for a different day. But yeah, I'm very, very much intrigued to see how Fangio gets pressure on Bo Nix and is able to stop the run. The Eagles' run defense hasn't been that great this year, and that's just not what we're used to seeing. The Eagles had the number 1 overall defense last year, and they're not. We knew that they would take a step back, but by taking a step back, we did. They've taken a step back, but they haven't taken a step back, if that makes sense, because they still have players all over the place. It's weak at CB2 and weak at defensive end. So I'll be interested to see how Fangio is able to get after Nix, and if they'll put Q on Cortland Sutton and just take him out of the game and force Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims, Evan Ingram, J.K. Dobbins to beat him. On the offensive side of the ball, I'm going to do it again. I'm going A.J. Brown. And why am I going A.J. Brown? I really, really, really need A.J. Brown to get involved in this offense. And that's going to be up to the quarterback. That's going to be up to the head coach. It's going to be up to the offensive coordinator. They have to find a way to get him involved. First play of the game should be a slant. Give me a slant to A.J. Brown. I don't care if it's 5 yards or whatever. Just get him involved in the offense right away to be like, look, we listened to you, and we're going to do our best to get you involved. If they can do that, maybe they can get get the passing game going. So on the defensive side of the ball, it's Vic Fangio versus Sean Payton. On the offensive side of the ball, it is A.J. Brown, and the biggest key is discipline. Can't have all these all these personal foul penalties. They will come back to haunt you sooner or later. Go ahead, Connor. Can you hear me, Connor? I don't think you can hear me. Well, there's that. Until Connor can get himself situated, I'm going to give my unheralded player of the game or of the week in week 4 in the National Football League. What do we mean by unheralded player? We don't need, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, who hasn't played great, Derrick Henry, who hasn't played great, Saquon Barkley, who hasn't played great. We don't need all the top guys in the NFL. Get somebody who maybe outplayed the expectations that you brought upon that was brought upon them. And they could have helped in a win. I personally typically go with somebody that usually helps the team in a win, maybe in an upset fashion. So for this week, I'm going and I'm considering him unheralded because there was a potential chance to of him not being a starter, but he is the starter because the other running back got traded coincidentally to the Philadelphia Eagles. So I'm going with Travis Etienne for the Jacksonville Jaguars, who defeated, and I think in an upset fashion, defeated the San Francisco 49ers 26-21. And Etienne had 19 carries, 124 yards, and a touchdown. He helped carry the load for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Connor, are you back? Can you hear me?
I'm back. I'm here.
All right. Well, I did my unheralded player, but if you want to give your quickly give your offensive and defensive player and maybe a key and then unheralded player, you can do that as well.
Sure. Why not? So
wait, you didn't hear what mine were then, right?
I did not.
Okay, so I'll give you quickly. Offensively, I went A.J. Brown because they need to get him involved. Defensively, I actually went coaching. I went Vic Fangio versus Sean Payton because I just think that's going to be a very intriguing matchup. The chess pieces that can move all over the board for both sides, how that's going to work out. And my biggest key is discipline. We can't have a bunch of personal foul penalties to give the Broncos short fields. You can take over now.
Couldn't agree more on the discipline aspect of it. But for me, I'm struggling to pick an interior offensive lineman, but I do think that it's going to be vitally important that Cam Jurgens or Landon Dickerson have a good game, play a good game. I think that that's an area of weakness where the Denver Broncos can and have taken advantage of with other teams. So this Philadelphia Eagles, enough of the if we just made that one block, this is a team where you have to make that block against every single time, or else it could end up, in a sack. It could end up in a loss of yards. Who knows the situation that you could end up in. So it's the interior of the offensive line that I got my eyes on. This time, I think I picked A.J. Brown last week, and he kind of let me down. So I'm not going back to that well. On the defensive side of the ball, I am going to go with the CB2 position because I continue to need to feel like I need to look at it and understand it and figure out, okay, we're week 5. We're 25% plus of the way through the season. Is this a need? What are we going to do with it? Each of them has their own weaknesses. So where is Vic Fangio going to lean? So kind of leans into yours. Where's Vic Fangio going to go? Is he going to give Adoree Jackson more of a shot because Adoree Jackson missed his shot with an injury? Is he going to give Keely Ringo more of a shot because Keely Ringo sucks at tackling but didn't really get tested from a coverage aspect? I want to see where Vic Fangio goes here. but I think that we really need to make a decision between this week and next week. These next 2 weeks really have to make the deciding factor of, do we need to go after a CB2? Do we really need to address it? I still think we need to address it. I think Adoree Jackson and Keely Ringo are admirable backups if necessary, but I don't necessarily believe and buy into the fact that they could be full-time trustworthy CB2s like Isaiah Rodgers, who you could have brought back, but I digress.
Just balling with Minnesota.
But I digress on that point.
I'll see him in a couple weeks.
My unheralded player of the week is going to go to a guy who has taken advantage of injuries, but you might as well take advantage of them when they come at you. It's going to be Woody Marks for the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans finally got their first win of the season. Woody Marks, 17 carries, 69 yards, and a touchdown. And then he was also the second best receiver with 4 receptions for 50 yards and a touchdown. Nick Chubb's there. Joe Mixon's there. They're both kind of banged up and struggle. And Nick Chubb has not looked very good or any type of consistency for the Texans. So Woody Marks, they drafted him. Might as well take advantage of him. You know that you can discount the running back position. Sometimes you look at the Eagles, you can put a lot of value into it. You look at other sides of the ball. You look at other teams, you can definitely discount that position for sure. But that would be my unheralded player for week 4.
All right. So before we get to our prediction, S. Caroline, thank you for joining us. She said birds are going to light it up on offense this week. It will help the defense bend, don't break. Let's hope. It is prediction time. I am 3-1. Connor is 2-2. We both lost last week because we both took Tampa. The Eagles are 4-0. The Broncos are 2-2. What is your prediction, Connor?
I feel like this is going to be a defensive game. I know I've said it for the past couple of weeks, but I feel like it's been forced out of the defensive game in certain positions. But I feel like I'm going to go with the Eagles on this one, and I'm going 24-20 for the Eagles. I don't think this is going to be a really high scoring game because, as some of the comments have alluded to in this episode, there hasn't been any. If the Eagles can get ahead, they're not going to force the situation. They're going to just hold and hope that bend don't break with the defense works and stands like it has for them for the last 4 weeks. But I hope that I'm wrong. I hope that the Eagles find a way and find some way on offense. I didn't put Kevin Petula. I didn't put any of the offensive weapons front and center this week as players to watch or anything. But they are players and people that need to be watched and need to start making some things happen. But I just don't know if this is going to be the game where we see it get too high scoring. The Broncos defense is good. Eagles defense has been pretty solid. I'm going 24-20 Eagles.
So the Broncos, 2 losses have been on the road and have been by a combined 4 points. So they have been in it. They lost to the Colts week 2, lost to the Chargers week 3. The Colts one was a crazy one, obviously, the leverage penalty on the field goal. And then they lost on that field goal. My prediction is 27-21 Eagles. Taking Eagles to win. I think they keep it rolling, and I think the offense looks better. It's not going to be perfect, obviously, but I do think the offense looks better. AJ gets a handful of catches, about 60, 70 yards receiving, maybe even a touchdown. Devontae gets involved. Saquon won't have 100 yards rushing, but he'll look a little bit better. Maybe Jalen gets 175 to 220, 215 yards passing. And the Eagles improve to 5-0 and get ready for a short week against the New Jersey Giants on Thursday. And speaking of that, next week is going to be a busy week for us because with the Eagles playing on Thursday, we got our review episode, then our preview episode, then potentially a review episode because the preview episode the following week going into Minnesota will have to be earlier in the week because I'm going to Minnesota for the Eagles-Vikings game. So we're gonna get a bunch of shows in over the next week and a half or so. But yeah, any final words, Connor, before we finish up?
No, I mean, like I said, we got through what I felt was the gauntlet of the schedule. I hope we get to 5-0. But I mean, this is a tough matchup. This is a very strong Broncos team that's at 2-2. And I think it's going to be a pretty good game. Another game that will potentially induce some heart attacks along the way. But I mean, have we not adjusted and accustomed our lives to it?
Yeah, pretty much. The last time we played the Broncos at home was 2017, and the link ran out of fireworks because we scored so many points. I still find that
that's happening. I don't think that's happening.
I don't think so either. I don't know if Fangio was the coach when that happened, but that would kind of be funny if he was. As always, thank you for tuning in to the Kelly Green Hour. Follow us on Twitter at Kelly Green Hour. Follow Connor on Twitter at Connor10. Follow me on Twitter at LJHero54. And follow the Eagles Pinpull Network on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and wherever you get podcasts at Eagles Pinpull Network. Subscribe, like, review all the shows. You get a bunch of Eagles coverage throughout the week. And thank you for all the comments in the chat. Makes it go by quick, helps us stay on topic. We appreciate it. For Connor, I'm LJ. Thank you for tuning in to the Kelly Green Hour.
Apologies for my technical difficulties. Fly, Eagles, fly.